This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve, here where we're sitting at the Gari Dam, but looking at these Egyptian geese doing their practice of probably early search for their breakfast this morning, see what they can get about. So everybody jump aboard to your very own live safari through the African wilderness. Good morning everybody. Once again, welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve, where here we're looking at the Egyptian geese. We got here, it was slightly dark, we couldn't even see them, but at least because we were actually trying to listen to any of the sound at the dam, from the dam, hope we can hear any of the audio, alarm calls, anything that may happen. My name is Andrew, and then I have Das on camera. So we decided to come to Gari Dam, perhaps for a search. Was there some tracks of wild dogs, middle of a quarantine? They had it kind of a west-northwest, where we will practice look around for them. It's going to be very much one of the interesting day where it's cloudy still, but kingfisher also, they're still happy seeing a rise, and of course they will get on and do their activity of the day. So everybody will love to hear from you. The questions and comments that you always send to us make us feel free, and of course love what we do. And you can still send them using hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, and also at FC. If you are under the age of 18 years old, then you can still pop us an email on kids questions at WildEarth.tv. But you can also go on the WildEarth website and head over to the live safari page. There you can also submit your questions and comment. Just such a beautiful sound of these birds. We're hearing the Natal francolins also making their sound on the background. So everybody is trying to be awake, and also, but first thing, it's so important, these animals or birds will communicate so that all of them are aware in the area where are their friends. May sleep separately sometimes. So myself this morning, I'm going to be practicing these dog tracks and look around, perhaps cross over to Chitwa there later on, and Chris, he would be looking for the Pride of Lions. He's probably behind the tracks, I guess, somewhere. And then Pride Lands, JP, may join us for a bit of a stretch of a walk they're doing every day. And then Wade in Phinda, perhaps also, they may join us. So cool that. So everybody won't spend much of time. I don't want to spend time here since we already got in these dogs tracks. I know they may sometimes have moved far away, but I want to keep up with these tracks, see how far they've gone. They probably actually have walked in the middle of the night in that area. And then it was no moon, so they may practice hunting when there's moon sometimes, but not much at night. So you find out that they actually went and lie down not far from quarantine, but for us, we're gonna have to find out. also refreshing. You know, getting early in the morning, seeing the tracks of these animals that have moved through us last night, or get excited. I mean, last time we saw the dogs' tracks in this quarantine or Djuma, it's been probably a week already. But it's good, you know, they came, they're exactly the same road when they were heading east, and they came back the same road but coming back north, west. So it would be interesting also to see which packs are these. So everybody, I'm going to go exercise looking for these tracks of the dogs. In the meantime, let's take a look at the weather on our various locations.
Good morning and a very warm welcome from andBeyond Phinda Game Reserve. We have a beautiful view of the moon here, nice and full, as we've come out to these open grasslands once again, and really is a spectacular sight. It's a cool morning, quite a bit of clouds. I don't think we're going to have much chance of rain, but you never know with the weather over here. And as always, my name is Wade, and behind the camera this morning is Owen, and we're going to be with you this morning on the drive. So we've come to the edge of this open area once more. Yesterday evening we spent some time with two of the lionesses and the two cubs, and I thought it might be a really nice thing to come back and try and see what they got up to during the night. In fact, as we were leaving sometime after drive, we actually managed to come across two other lionesses of that same pride, which were heading out here to join them. So at some point during the night, there was, those lionesses that we saw during the night, during the drive, and these two other lionesses came out and joined them. We've just found some of their tracks behind us, and right now we're following these tracks, and we're going to try loop around and see if they've joined up and what's happened, because it would be really nice to see what was the dynamic going on there. But it really is a quiet and peaceful morning, not much wind for now, which is a really nice thing, at least for us here. It is still quite early and we wrapped up nice and warm, but it's fairly still. The birds are calling. So as we start now, let's drive along and see if we can find where these tracks go. So as we're driving here, the tracks cut off maybe 100 meters or so behind us to this area on our right-hand side. And the lioness with the cubs were actually sort of ahead of us on the right-hand side. That's where we left them yesterday. So hopefully those two lionesses have sort of come up on this side, and let's see if we can find any tracks or signs up ahead. But while we carry on this search, why don't we head over and say hello to Chris?
Good morning and welcome aboard, everybody. While Wade is looking for lions, we had luck on our side, and our plan was to follow up on the members of the Tswalu Pride that was seen yesterday. And I couldn't believe my luck. As I was looking at some tracks, BK, who's on cam ops today with me, pointed out ahead that they're actually lying on the road. My name is Chris, and I'll be taking you on an adventure today, and we was going to look for lions, and well, this is how it goes on safari. There's times where it is easy, as it is this morning. At times you will have to work extremely hard to find them. I must say it has been a couple of days of extreme luck for me, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm just going to sit and watch them and observe them for a bit. They seem fairly calm. I do suspect that they will start moving in the next arguably 10 minutes or so. They are pointing southwards. You can see that they're starting to yawn, and you probably will witness a bit of grooming, and eventually they will get up. Good morning, Abdul. Well, there's several mechanisms that they use. I mean, and much like us, visual recognition is quite important. To us, they might seem similar in appearance, but they all have individual features that will distinguish them from each other. So there's visual recognition. Definitely scent. Scent plays a big role. They definitely can smell the difference in other individuals. And then as well, vocalization. Different lines vocalize slightly different. It's not audible to our ears necessarily, but I am certain that they would be able to distinguish between the vocalizations between different individuals. In a way, it's no different to the way we recognize other persons. On visual recognition as well, we can clearly see that visual markers plays a very big role in the way lions move about, and especially when it comes to hunting, as well as youngsters and cubs following each other. Look at the black behind the ears and the black tail tip. Now, those are visual markers that can only be seen from behind, and as the animal moves through the grass or the bush, the individuals behind it can very quickly follow those 2-3 markers in order to clearly see at a distance where the other individuals might find themselves, whether it be just transiting through the bush or when they are actively hunting. Very useful tool in order to coordinate a hunt, as they are pride animals and hunt collectively as a group. I'm going to keep you here for a bit, and we're going to sit and wait to see what's going to happen with this Talamati pride, or the members thereof, and just observe them for a bit.
So we're bumbling around, I came back to quarantine here to search for these dogs. The tracks are still leading kind of like northwest. Dogs actually run fast, the tracks are still on the road. So perhaps they still around, but we'll find out during the hunt, because sometimes when they come across some of the impalas in the middle of the night, they may sometimes try their hunt. Where some tracks sometimes can lead opposite way, just like right now, some tracks running backwards, and then it looks like the way on a hunt here. In quarantine sometimes can be so much prey species. sometimes can separate, and they can actually, lost from one another during that run, because each one can actually pick up its own target sometimes when they got all impalas. But for them to actually rejoin again, they're going to communicate, and there's no response. This is where they get separated from one another. So there's one set that's still running along the road. I'm going to keep up with this track. Hopefully the whole member they make maybe eventually join and still move the same direction along this road.
Good morning and welcome to WildEarth. We're live at Eco Training Pridelands and out on Bushwalk. We started our walk from the Ndlovu Dam this morning and we're heading off to go and see what we can go and find. So my name is JP LaRue and behind the camera we've got Gerrit. So our plan is to go and see if we can make our way to an area called Zebra Plains and from there on loop back towards the dam when it becomes a little bit warmer. We're unfortunately not going to have much of a sunrise this morning as it's still overcast and cloudy. Luckily this makes up for good walking conditions. And we also have a very low wind speed which is also in our favour when it does come to walking compared to yesterday's gusty winds which we were experiencing. Let's head off and go and see what we can go and find. As we make our way off on our walk, let's go and see what Chris is up to and what the lions are doing.
This is just getting better. Now, as we approached a little bit closer, we witnessed this hooded vulture, and as we just scanned the area, we realized that one of our favorite characters is present, and he is guarding his breakfast. And during the last couple of days, there's been a lot of new acquaintances for me. And what a pleasure it is to meet this very handsome fellow. At the moment, I can't 100% identify what they've been eating, but they've obviously had a very successful night. You can see some stripes there as well, and it could potentially be a zebra. And we can see as the sun is starting to rise further, with more and more vultures seems to be arriving. Remember that our vultures down in Africa are mostly what we refer to as old world vultures, and they find their food mainly by sight. We do know that vultures have incredible eyesight, and they can spot a carcass from extreme heights. Now, while we're there, I want to just ask our viewers a little question, a little trivia on that subject. Has anybody able to tell us which is the highest flying bird ever recorded? Out comes the landing gear. Yeah, indeed, white mane. But typically, if you look at the rest of the individuals, look at their stomachs compared to his, and what would very likely happen here is the lionesses probably brought down this animal and they started to feed. And if he was not present at the time, he was very likely quite close to them and he would have heard all the commotion and sounds and so forth, and they would have responded very quickly to that. Now, in male lions, I'm sure you've seen on several wildlife documentaries and perhaps even with us, that male lions immediately will barge in and they will almost own the carcass for themselves. The proverbial lion's share. Now, often we get asked questions as safari guides as to why does this happen? Surely that isn't fair. And the reality is, if you look at the size difference between males and females, males are substantially larger than females. And it does make sense in a way if you really look at it. If a male lion, he will often claim the carcass for itself. But if it's a carcass that's big enough to feed the whole pride, it's not a problem. Now remember, hyenas are tenacious. So hyenas can arrive at any moment. So it's crucial that that male gets his fill first and then he'll move off if there's obviously enough meat for everybody. And the males are much more efficient in deterring hyenas than the females. A male lion can take on a number of hyenas more compared to that of females. Females will need to work in numbers in order to deter them. So if you really strip it and analyze it, it does make sense. But he's very full. He's definitely consumed. He's definitely much fuller than the others. Good morning, Linda. It's a very good guess, but unfortunately, it is not the highest flying bird. Although they do reach great heights, the peregrine falcon, in order to ambush other smaller birds in flight. But there's a certain family of birds here in Africa that flies a lot higher than that. And then one particular species within that family that's been recorded as the answers seem to be coming in. Megan, you are 100% correct. The Ruppel's vulture from East Africa is the highest flying bird ever recorded. Now, we know that our own Cape vulture and white-backed vultures can reach heights of about 35,000 feet, but a Ruppel's vulture was confirmed at a height of 37,000 feet. That is incredible. Very good answer. There are certain small aircraft that cannot even reach that height. Isn't that amazing that we as humans can build machines that can't even rival nature's own aviators? I'm gonna be remaining here for quite some time this morning, since it was our plan to find lions, and we have lions feeding, and they are not gonna go anywhere soon. We are just gonna sit here, observe them, and just soak up this very calm scene.
As we celebrate Women's Month in South Africa, we acknowledge and thank those women committed to conservation, working tirelessly both on the front lines and behind the scenes. The Endangered Wildlife Trust is proud of the women who dedicate their lives to fighting to save species, conserve habitats, and benefit people. Here's to strong women everywhere who are dedicated to protecting forever together.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning, up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
Good morning, welcome back here to andBeyond Phinda, to the most amazing sight. We have managed to find these lions, as you can see, and in this early morning they are quite playful. Look, if we zoom out just a bit, there one lioness has come up to join. This one's walking straight towards us, and there's another lioness on the top of the ridge and one out of sight. But let's follow this one. I think she's going to go greet the one heading our way. So fortunately for us, the two lionesses did meet up. I haven't seen the cubs yet. I don't know if they're here. I've just seen the mom. She's in the tall grass behind this lioness to the right. You can hear little contact calls. There she is. Look at that. The other lioness is heading towards her now. Tough in the long grass. There she goes. Look at that. That's amazing. So this is just them greeting each other after having been separated for a while. I don't know if they've seen each other during the night, but look at that. There is such a bond between these animals. As you may know, lions are the only real social cat. So you wouldn't see this behavior in any other of the big cats or even little cats out in the wild. But this social behavior is incredibly important for them. This bond is what helps sort of keep them together as a pride. So it's really important that they keep that bond strong through these shows of affection. That's really cool. They've now, looks like they've swapped sides. So this lioness that we're looking at here, this is one of the, we call her sub-adults, but she's probably about 3 years old now. And pretty much an adult. And here comes the big lioness. This is the mom of those 2 cubs we saw yesterday. We might see another interaction now. Just on this ridge to our right-hand side, there's one other lioness. Look at that. Oh. There comes the 4th lioness just out to the right. Oh. It's so amazing to see full-grown lionesses acting like cubs. Now we can see all of them. It's always so cute to see cubs playing around and having fun. And you don't often see the adults doing it, but when you do, it's really, really special. And it just shows you that they still have a playful side to them too. We have a special question coming through from a Jaden. Jaden, I believe it's your birthday today. Very, very happy birthday. And Jaden is asking, what is the life expectancy of lions? Jaden, that is a great question. This one on the left is throwing sand around now. So these lionesses can usually live to around about 16 years old. And what we've seen on Phinda is that they often live a little bit longer, actually, because there's not much competition from things like hyenas or other prides. But these lions will probably live, like I said, to around 16, and the males would live a lot less, because life is a lot tougher for them through all their fighting. They'll probably only live to around 12 years old. But this female that we're looking at here, she's the oldest here of the bunch. I think she's around 10 years old now, if I'm not mistaken. But Jaden, I hope you have the most wonderful birthday. You see how she's been rolling around in that spot? Often they do that when they've smelt something interesting and they're trying to cover themselves in that smell. And more often than not, it's some something a little smelly on our side, like dung. And if we look around them, on the ground, there's quite a lot of buffalo dung around here and some wildebeest dung. I wonder if she just rolled around in some of that, covering herself in that scent. Look at that one. Oh. Did you all hear that? That is incredible to watch. Amazing to see this sort of behavior. Look at that yawn. This little playfulness. I think that little snap that we saw there was sort of drawing the line and saying, okay, a little too playful there for my liking. But what an amazing sight. We're going to spend a bit of time here and see what else these lions get up to. And why don't we go over and see what's happening with JP?
Welcome back on Bushwalk. At the moment we are looking at a nest of a little blue waxbill, which is an incredibly tiny little bird. It's got blue upper parts and pale greyish brown underparts. They're one of my favourite small species of seed eaters that we find out here. These nests that they created is very carefully tucked away among the fronds of a flaky fawn acacia. And this is how they protect themselves. Quite often what they'll also do is they will build the nest in close association with wasps. And these guys will also then protect the birds against potential mammal predators that might try and lurk into the nest. One of the things that I find particularly interesting about the nest building, as the pair is monogamous and they form a bond for several seasons, is that the male will start calling the female, and attracted to the nesting site, they will then together start building on the nest. If we look at the nest itself, it's consisting of very fine grasses, and these grasses are known as blue seed grass, which is one of the grasses of choice which they will use. They quite often also use love grass for the construction of their nest. What we generally find is that the male will do most of the nest building, but the female will assist. They reckon that the male can spend up to 40 different trips per hour that he will be spending on constructing the nest for gathering nesting material. These little birds have also helped me quite often in the past, and once or twice they've actually got me out of trouble. Got a very unique soft alarm call that they will produce. And I was walking through an area where it was quite thickly vegetated. I heard this little soft alarm calls and I focused on it. I stopped and looked, and the next moment a big male lion walked right in front of us. Fortunately, I did hear those alarm calls, otherwise I would have been in serious trouble. We're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more. Bookings open on Sunday the 22nd of August, straight after the Sunset Safari.
It's incredible how animal dynamics change when you move to different parts of Africa. Lions, let's take the size of lion prides, for instance. In this part of southern Africa, the Sabi Sands Reserve, this particular portion of the Greater Kruger Park, the prides tend to be rather small, usually about 8 to 10 individuals. And you would find if you go further north to the Masai Mara, for instance, you would start seeing much larger prides. And the hypothesis is that it's higher prey density, which necessitates them to become or create larger groups. Or if you reverse it, the more food is available, the more frequently, it just enables prides to thrive. You've got less mortalities with youngsters, and the prides just keep growing to phenomenal sizes. Not much has changed with our lion breakfast here. A few more vultures has arrived, and what I'm hoping is that either some jackal or a hyena will realize that there's a potential meal here once the lions have moved off, obviously. And they usually sneak up without you seeing them. We did hear hyenas not too far away, so as soon as something... There we go. Deja vu. They just don't miss anything, do they? Literally 2 meters from Darkmane. He either is not aware of the jackal or not bothered. Now what the jackals will do, they'll just often sneak up and quick little burst of speed in there and just grab whatever scraps they can. Now the amount of food that they will steal from the lions are so small that it often does not bother them that much. But what I suspect will happen, if he knows that the jackal is there, he'd probably just give a bit of a snarl or a growl just to keep him at bay. He's obviously realized that there's a huge size difference between him and Darkmane, and rather opted to just keep slightly more distance.
Welcome back here to andBeyond Phinda, and the lions have shifted a little up onto this little sandy ridge, and with the sun rising directly behind, it is the most incredible sight. So we just shifted a little bit to get the sun behind them, and just look at the scenery. They have settled down a little bit, and the 3 lionesses are laying here. The one has moved a little bit further away and has just settled further to our left, further down this ridge. But just look at those silhouettes and the colors of this morning sunrise. It really is amazing. The weather forecasts, and even early this morning it looked very gloomy, similar to what we had yesterday. But thankfully and luckily for us, it seems to be clearing quite nicely so far. There's still some clouds in the distance. You can see the sort of bank of clouds directly behind the lions. And further to the south, there's quite a bit more. But directly above us, and for most of the sky at least, it is actually quite a beautiful day. Such a lovely scene. After all the action, it's quite peaceful to just sit here and watch them, hey? So let's just enjoy the scene for a bit, and maybe you can even hear the birds calling in the background. Such a beautiful sight here. Just look at that sun. They're still very alert, looking around. The fact that we haven't found any sign of a carcass nearby, I don't think they had any success during the night hunting. So we might see them yet move around a bit this morning, and if not, then this evening we'll probably be looking a lot more intently, because those other two lionesses that we saw late last night were also quite intent, and we saw them briefly sort of try stalk some nyala, which saw them and promptly ran off. So I think they've just all reunited here, just busy reacquainting themselves with each other and enjoying this morning just as we are. And maybe just now we'll see them move around. Oh, I see this lioness has walked down already. The colors are amazing. This lioness, the big female, has just come and lay down at the same spot where she was rolling earlier. Oh, how's that dust? We're gonna sit and watch them for a while longer, but why don't we catch up with Andrew for a bit?
So we bump on the, looks like a herd of elephants while we were on a search for these final tracks of the wild dogs, just to see if they perhaps maybe ran back to Djuma area, which, you know, looks like finally confirmed that they have ran to the northwards from the northwest. The guys are keeping up with the tracks. But I can tell you for sure, looks like the whole entire reserve up in the south, they were up on these tracks, and they were still tracking them until we say, no, they have crossed into Djuma, and they perhaps into the Menyeleti. The guys are on their tracks. This is where everybody settled down, and we're actually hoping to see dogs, everybody, this morning. So we got an elephant, beautiful female, that. Such a beautiful mound. They're exercising. This young one getting up in this mound. A little bit of a wound in that trunk, that little one. Just a little bit of a wound there. I'm not sure if it's serious. Perhaps it's actually healing. seems to be fine because still using the trunk very well, as you can see, throwing the grasses around. So that's actually termite mounds where elephants love about. The grasses that is growing around this mound seems to be very sweet, but not only for elephants, but such as a giraffe. I mean, not a giraffe, they're not actually the grazer, but a rhino, and the hippo as well. And that's why they would love grazing around the mound, because the soil that is around, to develop this mound, it's from there beneath and the surface. So for this creature, as a termite able to deposit this sand up to the top surface, it's many of years of them doing that. Eventually, it's formed by their saliva until it's a big mound like that. Right on top there, you can see the elephants now finding their greater feed on top. It's not windy like last night. It's amazing weather. The cloud is still a little bit of a cloud there and there. We see a little bit of sun rise, and then perhaps it's going to be slightly open during the course of the day. Leo, you asking at what age do the young elephants starting growing their tusks? So age before a year old or just after a year old. So that's when you already see the tusk shoot up slightly, just an inch. And then this tusk is continuously grow up during the growth of the body of the animal. Even though the body of elephants probably stop growing when they're anything above 25 or above 20, but the tusk is still well developed at age, and then come enormous, thicker or even in length. This is the actually male that actually grow very much a thick tusk, and the female that don't grow a thick tusk, very thin. I can tell you for sure this tusk they really need it for feeding, helping the trunk. The trunk itself can do much alone, but when they need to break the branches, and then they would probably need 4 feet to help kick all the vegetation that are still harder to be pulled off from the ground by being hauled by the trunk. Always the tusk is involved. So everybody, we're still on move ahead of Tlalamba. I'm gonna investigate the area, see if she's still around.
Calling all WildEarth explorers, we have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah, as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September, and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We're here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Competitors are now doing the Hades halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
This is a battle of 2 great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
As predicted, hyenas have arrived. Now, earlier we had the jackal arriving, and now a solitary hyena is just moving up and about, just sussing out the situation. He will know very well there's not much he can do other than to wait for this pride of lions to move off, and hopefully there'll at least be a bone or 2 left. We are still with this pride of lions. They have literally not moved since their early breakfast. The hyenas are patient, but those hooded vultures are the epitome of patience. Now, if we look at their beaks, a very thin, long beak. Now, when there's a carcass, whether it's lions that have taken them or natural mortality, the bigger, larger vultures like the Cape and white-backed vultures, even the Leopard-faced vulture, the largest of them, they're the ones who will arrive first, and if there's an opportunity and there's no other predators, they will feed. These guys will wait until pretty much everything is gone, the predator is gone. You'll often just find a few ribs left, 1 or 2 bones that have been broken. And that is exactly what they'll target, bone marrow, after the lion or the hyena have broken a bone or chewed it. Those little tiny pieces of meat in between the ribs and in the cartilage, in between joints, and that's where that thin, long beak becomes very useful, as opposed to the leopard-faced vulture, who's not present at the moment, who's got a massive, robust beak, very sharp, in order to pierce skin and so forth. Often the first vulture to open a carcass if it's a natural mortality. But I have not seen one yet. Hi, white man. At the moment, I doubt whether he will allow any of them to eat. His stomach is rather full, but it's not up to capacity, and it doesn't appear to be a very large zebra that was taken. So he will remain there until there's either nothing left of the carcass that's consumable for a lion, or until he's had enough so that his stomach is up to capacity. At the moment, I doubt whether he will allow any of them. On that topic, an adult male lion like this can consume a quarter of his body weight in one sitting. That could be about 50 kilograms of meat that he can consume at once. Can you imagine that? A quarter of your body weight in one go. If this was a larger animal, let's say a giraffe or buffalo, which has got a lot of food for a pride like this, he probably would have had his fill and then move off, probably lie in the shade, perhaps go and drink water and just sleep off his meal. It does take a bit of time to digest. Then he would not have a problem with the others feeding. There will be enough meat for them. But a smaller carcass like this, especially, and we don't know what's happened in the last day or two, whether he's had a big meal or not. Well, at least not that I know of. And if he had an empty stomach, you know, a full zebra, he would have taken the majority of what's available on that carcass. None of the other pride members have attempted yet to approach him with the food. So it will be interesting to see if he does allow any of them. And for all the kids watching, remember to wash your hands after every meal, just like that lioness just did. Jaden, first of all, happy birthday. Now, male lions grow manes to protect themselves. Firstly, you can imagine they fight quite a bit. They are the dominants in the area and they are the big bosses. So the mane is there to protect them when they fight each other. That is one of the main reasons they have it, and also to recognize each other as well. They have different manes, just like some grown-up will have different colored beards. And another thing is it's also to show other lions in the area they are the dominant males. You will see that the more dominant and stronger the males become, often have more pronounced, more sort of bigger manes. And it seems like having observed them now for the last probably close to an hour, I can see that the rest of the Pride members definitely have been feeding as well. So it just strengthens my theory that, I mean, we don't exactly know what transpired here. So it just strengthens my theory that he was not present at the time of the hunt. He arrived later. They started to feed. They probably had a go at a bit of some of the intestines and organs, which they often consume first. And he arrived later and just owned the carcass. So it's a bit of a win-win situation for him and the rest. Well, I'm going to remain here for pretty much the remainder of the morning and just keep observing what's going to happen here. At the moment, not much, but that can change any second.
So we are still on a bumble, but just got in there. I was trying to investigate that Kalamba lock that was running earlier on, and the guys couldn't keep up with her. She actually moved into the river, and then the guy stuck there, and then that's how they lost the sighting. But we will be making our way to the area, trying to help them out. Perhaps we found her again. It happens she was moving in the direction of the north, and then so probably gonna still check a few roads. She may not be maybe using the roads, because when she's hunting, she would prefer moving through the thick, tall grasses. But it's good that she's in area of Djuma, so we know she's around. So we will try harder to find her.
Welcome back to Bushwalk. We just found a small group of giraffe. It seems that there's approximately 2 of them out here. I'm always fascinated about giraffe, and there's so many different aspects that fascinated me about them. And one of them is a specific story that I would like to share with you. The story goes back to somewhere in 1450 or 1415, and it was a giraffe that was sent as a diplomatic gift all the way from China towards China. It is said that this giraffe was put on a boat in Malindi in Kenya and then sailed up to China to be given as a gift to the emperor. It's just amazing that an animal as large as this could have made a journey as long as that in those days. Some of the other things that really fascinate me about giraffe is how their necks are configured, and that they've also got precisely the same amount of neck vertebrae as that we have, and that totals up to 7. So quite often I do get asked, why do they have such incredibly long necks? And automatically most people will think that giraffe has got incredibly long necks so that they can outcompete other herbivores when it comes to browsing. The reality is actually the longer your neck and the thicker your neck, the more easy it is to push over an opponent in combat. And this is especially important for males when they are fighting for access to females. That's also some of the most fascinating fights that I've actually seen. Is when males, giraffes, are combating one another and attempt to push one another over. It starts off with quite a gentle fight and pushing, and eventually becomes quite hard thrust, quite often trying to aim for the legs as well, so that they can knock the leg out underneath their opponent. Let's sit and watch him or her and see what they're getting up to. In the last few weeks, there's been an absence of buffalo and a lot of other large herbivores in the area. And it seems the oxpeckers are almost always visiting the giraffes at the moment. They're probably very happy because the giraffes do provide them with a meal, as they're quite often covered with ticks. There's an oxpecker right on top of her head now. I often see that the oxpeckers will also gather the hairs from the neck of a giraffe, and they'll use it for lining their nests. Other than that, they also use the animals as mating platforms.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more. Bookings open on Sunday the 22nd of August, straight after the Sunset Safari.
The weather seems to be clearing up. There's a brief little bit of sunlight coming through at the moment after 2 or 3 very cloudy, windy, very cold days. And this little fella is still observing the lions. And it's going to be a game of patience. There's nothing he can do at the moment. The numbers are not on his side. Hi, Lynn. Currently, I've counted about 8 to 9 individuals here. I do know that this is the Talamati Pride. Perhaps some of our viewers can tell us, some of our die-hard fans, how many animals are in, or how many total lions would be in the Talamati Pride. Remember, you can send your answers to @WildEarth on Twitter, or #WildEarth on Twitter, or @FC on YouTube. And if you're under 18, you can send your questions or comments to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, or alternatively, you can register on our website, the WildEarth website, and join the live safari and leave your answer or comment there. Be great if our viewers can help us out with that question. Currently, I count 8 individuals, and I'm not sure if it's all the members of this pride. Dr. Rocky Balboa asking if the meat has a strong smell. At the moment, it would be just a fresh, sort of typical raw meat odor to it. And later during the day, it will, as it starts decaying, it will definitely start sort of adopting a bit more of a rotten odor to it. It is a strong smell, even fresh meat, if you're not used to it. Bear in mind there's a lot of other factors involved here, like intestines and stomach contents and so forth, that would give it quite a pungent smell. In my opinion, it's quite a fresh smell that is nor appealing nor bad for me, really. That's just, I've experienced this 100 times in my career over and over. But it's not unpleasant, put it that way. It's just a very fresh, sort of meaty odor to it. The stomach contents could have a slightly stronger odor to it. I mean, that's essentially fermented grass that's in the stomach. So we're going to be sending you over to Andrew to see what he's doing at the moment. And I'm just going to remain with this bride for as long as I can, and that should be for the entire morning.
So everybody, we got the Tlalamba here where we're told that she's in the area, and the guy actually managed to keep up with her after that stuck. So we got her still moving, probably hunting around in this thick bush. Not sure what she's seen here, but you can see how she acting. Perhaps seen something. So we're just gonna I'm going to drive slightly forward, but whatever she's seen there, we don't want to also push too much to her. We'll get to see her. It might happen maybe she's very close to whatever she's looking at. So at this point, we're going to give her a chance. We know she's in an area. We may have to reposition after she attempts to whatever she's trying. There's 2 vehicles, another one on the far side, so then it's got to be so much for her. Very tall grass, and that's what the leopards need when they are hunting their prey. Just see how actually she walk across there, but you see their body language, how she's trying to actually be very crawly a little bit. Once that car stops, then I'm gonna go. All right. So we're gonna take our time with the Kalamba, see what she's up to.
RSA has a long history, over 90 years, of being involved and even pioneering aspects of the conservation sector in South Africa. Over that long history, we have realized that all of the issues that we are facing both locally and globally are due to human impact. Therefore, we need to concentrate on working with people, and that is what WESA does. What makes me passionate about the work that we do at WESA, and in particular the work that I engage in, is actually connecting with people. Currently the work that I'm working on is working with youth in a skills development program, and just to meet the youth and to hear their stories and to bring them opportunities that we hope will have some impact on their lives really, really fuels me to get up every morning. A huge shout out to the women that I work with, as well as to all the women that are contributing hugely within the environmental sector, both in South Africa and in the world.
We got there, he had probably moved a couple of 100 meters down the river and was about 10 meters from this causeway. So I radioed the lodge quickly and just asked them to bring a land cruiser around and some tow straps. So we thought we were going to try be heroes and save this giraffe. And now a big bull, probably over a ton, he's a big unit. Got the tow strap one side of the giraffe and managed to get it around him with the boat, and the other edge of the tow strap obviously back onto the bank. So we made this U around him because he was lying quite close to the bank. And we put that land cruiser in low range and we just gave it hell and pulled that giraffe, and the tow strap slipped up and we thought, oh no, it's going to slip off the top of the head, and it caught on his ossicles at the top. And that last 10 meters pulled him out onto the bank, and he battled. He was obviously quite weak and all that.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with the cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
So everybody was still sitting here. We still got a visual of a Kalamba. Couldn't see what she's after, but you can tell just by looking at how she reacts. some leopards that would grow up with such an experience, been moving around, seen so much happen into
Welcome back. Apologies for the sudden change. Djuma had a bit of a signal issue. We are here with the lionesses, and so let's just wait here for a bit. So the lionesses have left that big ridge we saw them on close to that waterhole, and they've cut through the grass and into the edge of the woodland, not too far from where we saw them yesterday, and they've just met up with the cubs over here. We're just trying to get a bit of a view now. There's one over there moving through these bushes. Really, really dense here. Ideal spot to be hiding a little cub. Maybe if I back up a little, we might get a better view. But the one seems to be moving around now. Okay, yeah, there's a bit of a gap behind us. I'm just going to reverse a tiny bit. There's the cub. There, just next to that dead tree. He had his head just through there. His head is directly behind that stump, yeah. So if we, yeah, right in the center of the screen, you can just barely see it. There he's moving. Look at that. So that's one of the two cubs. Let's see if they move around a bit. They have been up and down a bit. It's such a crazy contrast from where we just saw them a short while ago. I mean, we were out in this like massive open grassland, and it's this really quick transition into this dense woodland area. But when the lionesses are out hunting, this is the perfect place to be hiding the cubs. And the cubs will know to just stay put and stay safe. They'll keep a low profile because any movement on their part can result in predators like those hyenas that you saw with the other lion sighting, or even a leopard. You know, the cubs are still very vulnerable at this age, and it would be a very bad thing if they had to come across a predator. But we're going to stay here, and I'm going to move around a bit, try to get a better view of these lions. But why don't we head over to JP out on his bushwalk and see what's happening there.
Welcome back to Bushwalk. We're just busy looking at some tracks over here that was either made by a Spurfell or a Franklin. And what we'll notice is there's 1, 2, 3 little toes pointing to the front, and then behind toe pointing slightly towards the back. So most birds have got a configuration of 3 toes pointing forward and 1 pointing backward. In some cases, behind toe of most ground birds have also become redundant, and you won't see it marking, with exception for a little stub, as what you would see in red-crested coron. So here we can see it moved, and right over here we find that it has left a little fecal pellet. And when we do find fecal pellets like this, that's all black in color, it generally suggests that they might have been feeding on ants or as well as on termites. If there's more grain and seeds inside the diet, it tends to be more white and black combination with uric acid. One of the things that I've also noticed over here was a number of small little ants. And these little ants was actually right on top of that little fecal pellet, and they were most likely just getting some moisture from there. These look like little harvester ants. Here we go, there's one of the larger harvester ants, and then some of the smaller ones over here as well. So we find that the larger ones, when it comes to harvester ants, have incredibly large heads that are designed for cracking seeds open so that the others can feed on that. And depending on your head size, that will obviously depend on what size grain you can crack to pieces. Just to come back to the tracks again, we do find a number of different foot structures within birds. In most cases with ground birds, I've already mentioned 3 toes forward, 1 pointing backward. We get the typical foot structure that we find with most passerines, which is also 3 forward and 1 backward. But there, the feet especially adapted that the tendons can lock when the bird goes and perches on the branch and preventing it from falling off. In this case, the hind toe serves for balance because most of the ground birds, such as guinea fowls, francolins, will actually perch in a tree at night time to avoid potential threats such as leopards. We're going to move on. Let's go and see what Andrew is up to.
So we're still sitting here. Kalamba, she hasn't even make even a single step there. She's still the same position where she were. We cannot tell what she's seen here. None of the other guides are actually able to tell that. I only assume that she probably maybe either a banded mongoose that she have seen, and she will still practice these hunting things, because then when she's hungry and the weather's still great, cloud is still, it's actually greater mornings. I mean, with the cats, they would do this hunting even it's too much light. She's actually well blending there with these grasses. Sunny, he's asking, do I think Kalamba, she could be maybe a pregnancy? I'm not sure. I actually haven't get close look at her much since in a while, so I'm not sure if she actually conceived or anything like that. But we know for sure, since she has lost her little one, she would be really looking forward again for the next birth. In this area where she hangs around, there's a Mlawati male that is also around in this area. If she is, then I cannot wait to see her second litter. Hopefully they succeed growing up then. The gestation period is not actually too long. It's anything 110, 115 days. She would then deliver the baby though. So everybody, I'm going to stay put here, see what Lama do. In the meantime, let's go across to Chris.
Seems like Andrew is continuing our successful morning with that phenomenal leopard sighting. And Darkman just lifted his head now. There's another 2 members that are joining us now. I mentioned earlier that there's only 8 individuals and just now 2 other, what appears to be a lioness and a young sub-adult male have joined us. Earlier I had a question, how many members in this pride, and we received some answers from various of our fans, and this Telemati pride consists out of 14 members, and that excludes the recent cubs. We'll just do a little head count as soon as we see all the individuals. Some of them have moved further up the bank of this drainage. Then I'll be able to tell you exactly how many individuals are present. You'd often see this when a pride reaches a certain size, where individuals will break away, and that's usually temporary with some of the youngsters or other lionesses, almost forming a sub-pride at times, occasionally joining up, but still they utilize the same territory. They're essentially still part of the same pride. It's just they almost as if they break up into smaller hunting groups, because at some stage a pride will reach a number in where it just becomes unsustainable to continually feed everybody. Imagine if it gets to a stage where there's 20 members, for instance, which would be a very big pride. You would find that, for instance, taking a zebra, not everyone gets enough nutrition out of that. There's just not enough food in one animal the size of a zebra for such a big pride eventually. And you will then see they start breaking up in smaller groups. Now, prey density also dictates that. So in areas where you will find a huge prey density, you would see that they normally don't necessarily do that. Areas like up in East Africa, other parts of the Eastern Kruger, where you have huge amounts of zebras and wildebeest and several others.
So we're still sitting here. There we go. It looks like another step is about to take place there. You can see how she actually is. She's in action there. But she's making sure every step she makes, it's got to be very silent. Oops. She has jumped into. So we're gonna find out if she maybe succeeded, whatever she was. Just saw her jump. Perhaps he's still around in this thicket. But just gonna see what she has been up to. So everybody, we still got a Tlalamba. She just into the thick here. But then difficult, but she's there. We're not sure what she probably succeeded, but there's no movement of anything there. We're just gonna see, she may pop out there. She's gonna move off. I don't think she's got anything there. If she does, then it's probably a very small thing, type of mongoose. If it was in a bigger antelope, it would be a lot of a kicking and sound that antelope may made. So she's moving away. I don't think she's got anything on her mouth. And we didn't see anything right out of the bush. So she's moving in this tall grass, but we're going to try to keep up with her. That's how we're going to do, because we're going to make sure she do her thing. Since we're around. too dense it is. So everybody, I'm gonna try get out of this thick, hopefully get up there, still got it on the other side. In the meantime, let's go across to Crease where these are jackals.
Well, Andrew is trying to analyze what's happened with that leopard. We're just trying to reconstruct what's happened here in terms of where did the zebra come from, and on what I've seen now, where this jackal and these vultures are, they're licking up fluids from the ground there, and there's a dark patch which appears to be stomach contents of the zebra and obviously a bit of blood. And it seems like they have chased the zebra down this bank of this drainage line and ambushed it right there in the middle of it. And it looks like they've been feeding there, and when Darkmane arrived, there is a bit of a drag mark going up to that little tree where he's lying, and he must have pulled that entire zebra carcass up the bank underneath that tree. It's the testimony to his brute strength. Very calm here at the moment, other than Darkmane is just sniffing the carcass at the moment, not really eating at the moment, and the vultures. The rest of the crowd here is very, very relaxed. Most of the lions have been sleeping most of this morning. The others that arrived also just went to lie down, and that is typical behavior after a good meal. I mean, lions sleep as it is an average of about 20 minutes every, not 20 minutes, 20 hours every 24 hours. So they sleep for lengthy periods, which is typical of cats. When fully eaten like they are now, it could actually be even more. And they just take that time to digest. Hi, Costa. Very good question. Now, when an animal expires, the first to arrive is usually the lappet-faced vulture. Very, very large vulture with a huge, massive, very sharp, robust beak. And they are often the ones who will open up and carcass for the other vultures to have access to the meat. Now, this is a scenario where there is no predators involved, something that has died naturally. But again, it's also, there's an element of chance as well. That's generally speaking. It all depends on luck. You can imagine if I'm a Cape or a whiteback vulture flying over an area and I'm the first one to witness the carcass from above or see it, I'll be the first to arrive. On some occasions, I have seen the lappet-faced arrive first. I have seen bachelors arrive first, which obviously eagles, not vultures, but they do scavenge. It's all a game of luck in the end, you know, who discovers it first. As far as the lappet-faced vulture, it's vital that they open the carcass first, because especially with the larger creatures like buffalo and giraffe, very thick-skinned animals. Smaller animals, not so much relevant. Usually the last to leave would be the ones we're looking at now, the hooded vulture. Well, this jackal is just trying to figure out a way how to sneak into the carcass and having a bite. We're going to be going over to Wade with his lions.
Good morning, welcome back here to andBeyond Phinda. The lion's pride has just moved out into the open grasslands once again, and they've just crossed over the road in front of us. One of the lionesses came pounding out and scared the rest of the pride actually, and chased them off into the grass here. It's quite long grass, but we'll watch from this vantage point for a bit. I'm probably going to try reposition now in a moment and see if we can get a view of them moving around. Let's actually try and move now. We're gonna cut in over here. There's a couple of other vehicles with us this morning, enjoying the same sight that we have. They can just see those ears sticking out in the grass. I'm going to try and get a little bit higher up. Here we go. There's one of them staring at us through the grass here. I think they're going to be moving along shortly, because after fetching the cubs now they're showing a bit more activity. So we'll probably find as they're moving through these grasslands here that they're going to be, oh, just here on our left, there's another lioness coming through to join them. Let's see if we can get her coming close to the vehicle. The path that they followed is just in front of us here. When they're moving through these grasslands, they're probably going to be moving from sort of vantage point to vantage point. So we might even see them pop up on little termite mounds or ridges. Look at that. So she'll walk just in front of us here. Oh no, she's decided to go behind. She's right behind the vehicle, maybe 3 meters behind us. The other lioness is now moving towards her. It's amazing how well camouflaged they are here. Let's stick with them a bit longer, and I'm pretty sure as we move through here they're going to pop out on a bit of a vantage point, and hopefully we can get a better view of them there.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more. Bookings open on Sunday the 22nd of August, straight after the Sunset Safari.
Competitors are in the room behind me right now for the birding challenge, where they have to look at pictures and identify the birds and then separately listen to bird calls and identify them. But it's not easy. This is going to be the toughest one. Here we have the previous year's winners. You can see they're trying to see if they can remember all the answers, and look at them taking a sneak peek.
Welcome back on Bushwalk. We just found some buffalo tracks. We're just determining if they are fresh or not so fresh as what we think that they are. But they've definitely been made in the last few hours. So quite often this track is confused with that of giraffe. But if we look over here, this is a fairly round-shaped track compared to that of giraffe, which is much more rectangular in appearance. This is a front foot right over here, which is slightly larger and much more rounded, compared to the hind foot over here, which is slightly more oblong in appearance. And then some additional evidence is right over here, fresh dung from the buffalo. Unlike that of giraffe, that leaves round pellets. These produce a typical cow pat. Now, if we really want to, we can try and determine how old this is by simply looking at the temperature in it. And it's already cold on the inside, so we know that this animal has passed here several hours ago. However, a few minutes ago, there was some oxpeckers that did fly up some 200 meters away from us. We'll definitely go and follow up and hear if we can find them again and possibly see our buffalo. Let's move on and go and see what we can go and find. Seems over there is something. Oh, that's a nyala, but not a buffalo. If you have a look through the camera, this is a nyala antelope. This is the bull that we have over here, with a typical chocolate brown color to the coat and that white crest. They form part of a group of antelope which is known as the spiral-horned antelopes, which includes kudu and bushbuck for us. This is the intermediate one in terms of size between kudu and bushbuck. I find it particularly interesting that the males are still referred to as bulls, however the female is referred to as a ewe. And only from larger antelopes, such as kudu onwards, the females are then considered as a cow. Quite often when you do notice them, they'll actually flare those white crests on their back, especially if there's another bull that's quite close by, and that's used to intimidate their rivals. Quite often they will laterally stand towards one another and figure out who's the largest until the other leaves. So one of the nyala bulls I often actually do find in the area, and one of the characteristics of him is that there's a tip that's broken on his left horn compared to the right horn tip, but it's much longer. We're actually very fortunate to see them in the open today, because quite often in the daytime they retreat to thicker vegetated areas, while at night time they come into the open areas. There's also an interesting story about one of the famous naturalists and hunters that used to frequent southern Africa, a man by the name of Tswalu. Apparently he wanted to go and see one of these in northern KwaZulu-Natal, and he consulted one of the chiefs in the area. And because of the behavior of being in the opens at night time and back into the thickets in the daytime, when they described the antelope, the chief actually thought it was a witch that he was describing. We're going to move off and go and see if we can go and find our buffalo. Let's see what the others are up to.
Welcome back here to andBeyond Phinda. These lions have been moving through the grassland over here, popped up onto a little clearing at a stage, and the cubs got quite excited and started playing around, so they've chased the lionesses off, and they're once again on the move, coming right past the vehicle behind us. Look at that. One of the lionesses is just here on our left-hand side, sniffing at something in the grass. There's a prominent mound just in front of them, and another one to the right. I'm sure they're going to maybe pop up there and have a look around. Ooh. Look at that view. These open areas are something else. Here comes the cubs. There comes another one running. The weather has turned a little bit, and those clouds are rolling back in. And there's a cool breeze that's popped up. There's one lion on the termite mound. Quite a scenic spot there. She's settled down there a bit. Let's see if the others pop up, and then we might drive around a little bit. They're all currently at the base of the mound in the long grass. But a spot like this is ideal for them. And they can have a good scan around for any prey and other predators. But right now, with these ones moving around, most likely looking to hunt. Here comes one of the other big lionesses onto the mound, and the cubs are playing just at the base. We have a question coming in from, please forgive me if I mispronounce it, Wakesha, asking if lions can climb trees. And yes, they can. They're not quite as nimble or graceful as the leopards are, but they do spend a surprising amount of time in the trees, particularly cubs. Cubs are extremely playful, and in fact, earlier, as they were moving through the woodlands heading back out this way, one of the cubs did hop onto the lower branches of a tree, of a nice marula tree. In some areas and regions, the lions spend a good deal more time in trees, like you'll often see in the wet areas of Botswana, especially in the deltas. A lot of the lions spend a good deal of time in the trees to, get vantage points and scan through those wetland areas. And this pride in particular has spent quite a lot of time in trees. They're not shy to climb. Like I say, they're a little clumsy compared to a leopard, but really, really do seem to enjoy it. This little cub is having a time there with a shrub, looks like a fever tea. that it's busy chewing. Now it's gone off to the other one. But yeah, we've actually had sightings where this entire pride with the other lioness that's missing, all 5 lionesses in the same tree. I've seen them in a big sausage tree actually, which was quite an incredible sight. Don't often see the males climbing, but look at this cub has gone back to that little bush. Amazing how the cubs are still having a little play there in the grass, but those 4 lionesses have just perched on that mound, just having a scan around. See, each one facing in a different direction, searching for anything. And on a warm sunny day we could look to find a whole lot of game out here: zebras, wildebeest, warthogs, and rhinos, buffalo. Sometimes often these grasslands are teeming with wildlife. With the weather we've had the last few days, though, a lot of the animals look for shelter in the thickets. So they may not be out in the open, but even in these little thickets that we see ahead of them, I'm almost certain there'll be some impala or zebra hiding there. The cubs have moved a little bit up now, still playing around a bit. Look at that. If we can get a close look at them, you can actually see, even though they're still quite young, there's a male and a female of the two. This one in particular that's just settled here next to the lioness. If we have a careful look, you can actually already see at the base of the neck, the shoulders and the sides of the face, that little fluff growing around there. And already his head is quite a bit bigger than that of his sisters. And this is how we can tell that it's a young male, short of looking underneath the tail, of course. You already see the starts of that mane growing. It started in the last month or 2 that we could really, see it. But it'll take a good few years before that mane is fully grown. And he would stay with this pride. His sister would likely never leave. She would come to adulthood and stay within the pride. He, on the other hand, would be pushed out of the pride by both the lionesses and the dominant males in the region, the 2 males that control this territory. But that's still a while to come. He would only be pushed out probably at around 2.5 years old. And then he would have to find his own way, at least until he's big enough and strong enough to control a territory. Okay, now each one looking in a different direction. It's quite amazing. We'll stay with them a while and see if anything else happens here.
So everybody, we're still sitting here with the princess Tlalamba. The best of the Tlalamba, we still got her, but the visual is not great, as you can see, everybody, how we maneuver around to get through that little bit of her face. And then I think if she may not able to move right now, she will probably take it easy around here until later. But it's quite a drainage line, so it's quite a lot of it covered, shadows and these trees, and then she may maybe again move perhaps towards Gary Dam there. And then I believe this is not actually far away from where the Talamatis in the walker are. So it's slightly just to the north of where we are at the moment. So if she ever drop herself into that drainage line system, we're just going to see how we're going to make it through this, because as you can see, there's quite a density covered here. So we may sometimes lose her as she do that, and then maybe catch up with her while she's at a deep or on the far side of the other side of the bank of this drainage line system. But for now, she hasn't decided that yet. So we're going to stay put to see what she do.
I must say that it's difficult not to fall asleep with them. It is contagious, just watching them sleep like this. It's almost that rhythmic breathing. It's almost as if you just want to go and just join them. This is the only individual at the moment that's doing anything. The others are almost dead in appearance, in a very, very deep sleep. Hi. Sure, that's a very broad question. Now, the oldest lion I have seen is a lioness in an area where I was stationed in the Eastern Kruger National Park, in one of the private concessions there, and there was a lioness at the time that we estimated at about 16, 17 years old. Quite difficult to pinpoint it, but that would in essence be the oldest one. Now, lionesses generally outlive the males. They often head to about 14, 15, roughly, whereas the males generally don't make it past about 9, 10, 11 years. And that's only because of the social structure, and that is different from area to area. So you might find that in captivity there might be lions that grow older or not, but that would be the oldest one that I've seen, and that would also be based on an estimate. On that topic of age, now one thing we can look at is just general markers on a lion. We saw the one that was just moving away, and this one who's got quite a lot of pink, or what I would say, lack of pigmentation on their noses. And the younger lionesses often will have much more visible spots on the body, especially on the lower legs and on the rump. Remember, lion cubs are born, they have spots very similar to that of leopards, just a lot more faded. And what one can also look at is the face. We can see both these lionesses fairly youthful faces, and you can also look at the teeth. when they're still very white and very sharp, often a sign of a young lion. As they grow older, the teeth become a lot more yellow, a lot more blunt, a lot thicker at the base. And the nose of a lion will become more pigmented. It will become darker, eventually even like almost pitch black. And they broaden with age as well. So and then obviously body size. There's so many markers that you have to sort of almost like a mathematical equation and put together in order to try and age a lion. And it's never an exact science. And one of the reasons lions would pant like that is not necessarily because of temperature. Now, in very hot days, it's to cool themselves down, but in this case, it's because the stomach is literally so full that it presses against the diaphragm and they cannot breathe like they normally should. And therefore, they need to do short, shallow breathing in order to get sufficient oxygen and breathe. So it's all got to do with what's in the stomach. Now, there doesn't seem to be much action here at the moment. Eventually, they will get up to drink water. We don't know what time that is, so we're going to remain here for about another 20 minutes and observe what's going to happen.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more. Bookings open on Sunday the 22nd of August, straight after the Sunset Safari.
So now we've got a backside of a Kalamba. It's so cool that, we're sitting in this very thick, what you see in the Masai Mara there, where 2022 is going to be the best for everyone to be. And then, of course, it's slightly very in an open area. You can see miles away where we are, it's all a riverine everywhere. A Leopard's area. That's where Kalamba fits in. We actually, it's not that she have moved. We're actually trying to position ourselves, see if we can see a bit of her. She got her space. She can do whatever she wants. We're far from her. She can even return back to where she came from. This is where we are, sitting here. But her mission is always to the north, where would think of Gary Dam. Now, talking about the lion sport, that a young lion would develop sport when they're young, which is so important when they're young, having those sports. It's vary with age, but with the leopard, it remains permanently, doesn't disappear. But also with lions, so important, because then it helps the young one to be blended in very camouflaged way where it's the same with the leopard. Having sport is always so important. Which makes them hardly to be visible, especially if you're far from them. So when they are young, this spot pattern that you see there is not actually clearly well developed, or she's moving. It's going to be nice one where she's going. So we're going to have to go all the way there. We've got another car and a third car coming in. So what I would do, I would find the gap myself into the drainage line. That, depending on the signal, which is maybe we may lucky and signal, still allow us. So everybody, while I'm doing that, I'm going to be sending you across to Wade. Where were those lines?
Morning, you are back at andBeyond Phinda, and these lionesses have been moving around quite a bit, and they've settled on this termite mound, and you can see they're slowly starting to settle down again. The lionesses are still looking around, at least a couple of them are, but it looks like the two other lionesses have settled down for a bit of a nap, and so has one of the cubs. This one is still looking around, but you can see that how their behavior has shifted from the playing and the moving around and real alert looks we saw earlier. They've really calmed down a lot now. It's very cool on this side, and there's a chilly breeze that's picked up, and it's really brought the clouds back over us now. In fact, on our southern side, it's looking quite dark and grim. There's a chance we might get some rain in a bit, or hopefully not. But look at that. They really do look so peaceful now. They've done a fair bit of moving. They'll probably rest. We have a comment from Jade thanking us for the time we've spent with the lions. Jade, you're most welcome, and I do love it too, actually. It is amazing to see this sort of behavior that we've seen, the little interactions, the playing, the growling we had early this morning, and the cubs playing around. It is so special to see. Lions will spend the majority of their day doing just this, fast asleep. So it really is so special when you get to see it. All this activity that we've been fortunate enough to see. With these two cubs next to each other here, you can really see the difference, how that young male's mane is starting to grow. While his sister has settled down, he still has his head up, looking around. And these cubs are getting quite a bit older now. Like I said, they're about 10 months, thereabouts, give or take a month or so. And it is around this age that Mom and the other lionesses will start teaching them to hunt. So Let's hang around here for a bit more, because it really is such a beautiful sight with them out here in the open like this.
For me, the best part about being a guide is being able to live out in Africa's wild places and being able to share that with people. Of all the challenges, for me, the one that I'm probably the most comfortable with is the game drive. I think that's what I do most days, so that would probably be what I feel like I'd do the best at. Almost like someone's put little Lego blocks up there and made this perfect little sort of statue, and there's another one further along as we drive. One of the challenges I'm the most nervous about would probably be shooting. I think on the day there's always quite a bit of pressure and intimidation, always associated with it, but I guess we'll see how it goes. I hope I'll win this competition, but if I don't, it's still been an experience of a lifetime, and I've learned a lot and met a lot of really, really cool people.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
Managed to get somewhat of a facial view of Darkmane. He seems to be a little bit shy today. Or perhaps he's not bothered. My earlier reference to age, you can clearly see now a very mature male lion with that very broad, very dark nose compared to that sort of very narrow, more pink-coloured nose of the young lioness. Just as a reference, just something to keep in the back of the head whenever tasked to age a lion. Now, he's not moved. He's lifted his head once, and he went down exactly in the same place again. I always chuckle when people refer to it we had a question there in Kululeko. How do lions store their meat after the hunt? They don't actually. They, in fact, just start consuming it right there and then where they catch it. Now, in this case, they caught it in the drainage line and he just dragged it up. Lions are not too bothered about vultures taking over, at least not here. And they don't really store it. They're going to want to consume it as quick as possible. But if it's a very large animal, they will eat until they've had enough. And over then, depending on the size of the animal, if it's a giraffe, it could take several days, for instance. A zebra, perhaps a day, depending on the size of the pride. But they will just drag it into shade, often, the nearest shade, and they will then consume it where it is. They don't need to sort of store it or preserve it. They're going to keep on consuming until it's finished. Whereas leopards will move to trees and hoist it, whereas lions don't. I found that they drag it into the shade more often in warm periods in summer. And again, it comes down to what animal they've taken down. If it's a rather small animal like an impala or perhaps a nyala or something like that, which is not a usual prey item for them, they will consume it right there and then, because there'll be so much competition between pride members to just get in there and grab a piece of that meat. And they'll often consume those things very quickly. It's usually with the larger animals that they'll move it into shade. Some naturalists believe that putting it into shade will hide it from vultures, which could very well be true. It does take substantial amount of vultures to remove lions from a carcass. And that will become more of an irritation rather than them forcing the lions off. Now, while I was observing dark-maned VK spotted these guys. Let's just hang out a second here, because the numbers are changing now. There's at least 2 hyena that are approaching, and they seem to be quite mature as well. Even dark mane seems to notice them. Look at that belly. There could be close to 40-50 kilogram of meat in there. I wonder if we shouldn't move just 10 meters forward, and I just want to see what happens with these hyena. Because from where we are, we will not be able to see anything if there is any action. They will very likely circle around this carcass and not approach it directly. And I think this could be a very good vantage point. I just want to It seems like they have lost interest. Danny, as it stands now, probably not. There are at least 9 lions, I think 10 in fact, with the other 2 that arrived earlier. So the numbers are still in favor of the lions. The 2 hyenas did seem to have a bit of interest, and they did a quick head count, I'm sure, and they realized that the odds are not in their favor, and then they seem to have moved off again during that time that I repositioned the vehicle. You would need a substantial amount of hyenas to push a group of lions off. Now, in this part of Southern Africa, we don't see the large clans of hyenas that you will associate with areas further north, like in these areas in Botswana, for instance, East Africa, Masai Mara, the Serengeti system, where we see much larger group of hyenas, or clans as we refer to. And there we often see much more of a competition between them. And down south here, we do not have the same like large clans of hyenas that you would have in those regions. So here they take on a little bit more of a scavenging role, and they do hunt for themselves, whereas up in those regions where you've got this like large population, they tend to compete more with lions, and they hunt a lot more in those regions. And this is not etched in stone. We have seen large groups in the Karoo region, but it's not as common as further north. What a difference it is to the last couple of days. I'm sitting here just having and just appreciating a bit of sunlight after the cold, miserable weather we had this last couple of days. And on that note, we are very likely just going to remain here for another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll then eventually move off and leave these guys for a midday snooze.
Welcome, I'm back on Bushwalk. We found something interesting to share with you, and this is the dung of a porcupine. So when I started guiding, I was always told that it looks like a cook sister that's been twisted together. A cook sister is a South African delicacy, which is dough that's been platted and then put into a deep fryer into hot syrup. It's actually quite good. But if we have a look over here, if we do look at the porcupine's dung and we break it open, it mainly consists of roots and different fibers. Quite often they will feed on the bark of trees as well. And we'll see that they often will ring bark trees in the process of feeding on the bark. They're rodents, so they've got a pair of incisor teeth that's always growing, and those incisor teeth actually rub over one another, and it's kept sharp in that way. Some of the other stuff that we find porcupines often eating is bones, but they tend to take the bones back towards where they've got a den quite often, and that's for the necessary calcium which they need in their diet. So for those of you that are not familiar with porcupines, they're actually one of the largest rodents in Africa, and we also find that they are covered with quills, which they use as defensive mechanisms. Quite often people believe that they can shoot these quills, however that's not true. They actually have to move into the animal that is busy harassing them so that the quill can get stuck into their body. and then it will set up septicemia. So most predators may learn very quickly by the association of a black and white coloration of a porcupine that is actually an incredibly dangerous animal to deal with. However, some leopard and some lion actually specialize in actually eating porcupines and have learned how to kill them effectively without becoming harmed, because a quill in the face or in the eye can mean that you can not hunt successfully. Well, we're going to continue and go and see what else we can go and find. We're still on the trail of our buffalo, and here goes our tracks. Let's follow. One of the things that you always want to do if you are following buffalo is keep your head up and not too often onto the track itself, as that you can become distracted and get yourself into trouble.
We are back here at andBeyond Phinda, and the rain has caught up with us, and you can see the lions just starting to get active, shifting around, a little uncomfortable. For now it's just a lightish drizzle, but it's going to probably chase these lions off into a thicket just now. Look at the cub grooming his sister over there. It's amazing how quickly the weather's changed here. And that little cub is looking quite intently at us. The females have shifted around a fair bit. The one has actually moved a little bit out of sight towards the size of the mount. But as this rain gets more and more pronounced, we're gonna probably have to move out of the wet for now. Let's head over to Andrew and see him about on the move.
So we lost Tlalamba, and then we can't find her. She make her way down to that drainage line, and then 3 vehicles in the area. So I'm only checking this area where she was always facing. So we're on the Mlawati still. So we couldn't actually, where she just dropped down, nobody could drive there. And then we're only assuming that if she would make her way further north, she would come out this way towards Gari Dam. Oops, we've got some nyala here, where she may be interested. I don't think she's this closer here. We're just checking. I don't know how far she is. Those are the nyala. She may really want to hunt nyala. There's good size of this female here and a young male that I saw moving into that wood. Only if she maybe reached this far, but they have a good sense of smell, these animals. You can see how they're trying to smell at us. Means that if there's anything around here, they can also tell that it's dangerous, and they move off. The riverine, it's always such a beautiful area to be, or listening to the birds. All of a grey-headed bushwalk that are whistling about. We're probably going to be spending time here because sometimes this bird can give a warning if they see something. I'm going to ride forward so we can able to see these antelope very clearly. So it was actually a hyena drag mark from last night in that area. Perhaps that Tlalamba, she killed something and the hyena took it from her. So it's not going to be an easy day for her if that happens. Yeah, a lot of time we know they got their keel stolen from the hyena. By a hyena a lot of time. There's such a beautiful antelope in Nyala, so there is no fully grown male here, where you would be dark and then horn well develop up straight and then one turn end up. Vertical stripes still there. Just like Kuri also have those stripes. They're meant to be in a thick bush. That's why they rely on their hearing, smell, sight. It's all great. So we've seen most of these female full-grown here. And they have been survived all these years and until they're grown up this way. And all they've done is that they also make sure wherever they are, there is no predators around. They're staying alert, a lookout. Otherwise, then there would be always be a target. Oh, there is a male. I think he's going to approach the female there. I thought there is none, but there is one. Just see how dark it is. And these horns are like needles. I mean, they're sharpened. And then that antelope, especially male, they can stand and they can defend themselves. I've seen Nyala defend himself from packs of dogs. And these males are not really territorial. There are some points where you can see the whole group of males together. But there is a dominance in among the males where he's always have access to the female. Just right now, what we've seen here, this male had access to the female. You would check their status on the females. You would perhaps leave them.
Every year in August, South Africa marks Women's Month. WildEarth would like to acknowledge and thank all the amazing females who have worked tirelessly to share our nature with the world.
We're gonna have to just wait, okay? She's gonna come out there just on my right-hand side, and she can see these impala.
Now you've got to inhale it. It burns. I don't know if it's supposed to work instantly. Go, girl, go! Get her! Get her, girl! Get her! I'm so looking forward to following her story in the future.
I'm really hoping there's two. I'm really hoping there's two. But you know, even if there's one, oh my goodness, everyone!
And I get to share it with you. Isn't that extra special? I get to experience it and show it to everyone.
Guiding as an industry has become over time more and more professional and more recognized as a profession rather than just a hobby. And so to be recognized for that professionality is really kind of it's humbling, really, to be able to say that. It's definitely birding is the thing that I feel most comfortable with in terms of categories that we have here. At least comfortable. I mean, you never know how you're going to shoot on a particular day. You can have a good day where you blast everything as you need to, in terms of the targets, and then you can have a shocker where you just, miss a single shot here or there, and that's basically the end of your day. To be considered for such an experience is really a powerful thing, and so I'm here just to have a lot of fun and experience what the competition's all about.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
As the day starts heating up, there's less and less activity, except the big guy. He seems to have developed a new taste for zebra, and he's now trying to reposition, but we just keep filling that stomach up. As it digests, he's just going to keep on filling it up. Good morning, Renata. Now, they observe the parents often from about 6 months onwards, sometimes later, and they will usually start participating usually from about 1.5 years onwards. And as is the case with so many things in Africa and so many species, these things do vary. So sometimes it will take later, but roughly at about 15 months when we start referring to them as sub-adults. It could be earlier. I have seen prides do it a lot earlier with their cubs. But that is usually just in a supporting role and often laced with error. They very often spoil the hunt out of sheer inexperience. But that's how everybody learns. Everybody has to start somewhere. One must always keep in mind that everything around us here in Africa is dynamic. And as much as we can write books and do research, I have so many times in my career as a professional nature guide see that we have access to the best research, the best authors, authorities on wildlife. And you can read as many publications on this. You would every now and then see something that would contradict what's been written up about a certain topic, or see something that has not really been recorded before. It does happen. And that's one of the reasons I chose this career. It's just, it is incredibly stimulating to know that you can never know everything. There's always something to learn, there's always something to know. The one day you just discover one more insect and it opens up an entire new study world for you. It can get frustrating because the moment you feel you're on top of it, this whole nature concept gets on top of you in terms of what there is to know. The jackal and the hyena have moved off. They are either sleeping down in the drainage in some shade, or they decided to move off since the numbers are not in their favor. I've not seen them for a while. Best part of the last hour, they've been absent. Well, what an exhilarating day. The plan was to find lions and they found us, indeed. And we will, in all likeliness, return this afternoon to see how this has unfolded. And if there's any change. We know that some of the lionesses have moved further east towards a water hole, so that will also open up some opportunities for this afternoon. And it has been an absolute privilege for you to join me on this live safari today. And join us again this afternoon for another live safari. We will hopefully be able to continue on what we've done this morning, and perhaps there might be a few other characters that we haven't seen for a while. You never know. On a live safari into the African wild.